All right, welcome back everybody for another deep dive. Today we're heading over to India. We've got some corporate filings hot off the presses. Always love getting into these. These are from SG Finserve Ltd. That's SG Finserve Ltd, a financial services company based in Delhi. And of course, right at the top, you see the CIN and the script code. So if you're not familiar, those are basically unique identifiers for companies in India and their stocks. Think of it like a financial fingerprint. Now, what's really cool about these is the date, January 17th, 2025. That's right, today. These are fresh. This meeting just happened. And it looks like the board of directors got together to review and approve the company's financial results for the quarter that ended December 31st, 2024. Big stuff. But what can we really learn from these, kind of boring looking documents? Well, that's where our expert comes in to break it all down for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think these filings, they give us a really interesting look, a little bit of a peek behind the curtain at SG Finserve. I mean, we're not just looking at numbers here, but we're getting a glimpse into their financial health and practices.
Okay, I love that. So let's jump right into it. The filings mention unaudited financial results. So what does that mean exactly? Is this like a first draft of their financials?
Well, yeah, think of it as a snapshot. It gives us a preliminary view of the company's performance, but it's not the final, officially audited version just yet.
Okay, that makes sense. So who's making sure all these numbers are, on the up and up before they become official?
Well, that's where the audit committee comes in, along with external auditors. And in this case, it's MEVS, AKGVG, and Associates. They're chartered accountants based in Delhi, and they've been brought in to scrutinize those financial statements.
Gotcha. So they're like the financial referees, right? Making sure everything's a fair game.
Exactly. They're there to ensure that everything is accurate and in compliance with all the regulations. And once they've given their stamp of approval, these results, along with their report, will be posted on SG Finserve's website. Total transparency.
I love that. So anybody out there who wants to, check out the company's performance. They can go right to the source. Now, something else that I noticed here. It says the meeting lasted 1 hour and 50 minutes. Is that typical for a board meeting where they're approving financial results?
That's actually on the shorter side. Board meetings, especially when they're dealing with finances, can really drag on.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
This might tell us that SG Finserve was really prepared, or maybe there just weren't that many questions about the results.
Interesting. Makes you wonder what went on in that meeting, right? I mean, were things just running super smoothly over there? Or do they just like to keep things short and sweet? Who knows? I gotta admit, some of the language in these filings is pretty dense. I mean, we see things like Regulation 30, read with Regulation 33. Sounds kind of serious, right? So what are those regulations all about?
Yeah, well, that's just the language of the corporate world. It can be a bit much sometimes, I know. But those regulations, they're all about transparency and making sure that companies are playing by the rules when it comes to their finances. In India, those specific regulations, they dictate how and when companies have to disclose their financial performance.
Okay, so it's not just a bunch of jargon. It's actually about making sure everyone has access to the same info.
Right. It's about creating a level playing field.
Yeah.
Especially for potential investors.
For sure. That's super important. Okay, so that makes sense. But here's where things get a little interesting. We actually have 2 copies of the same document in our source material. Why would a company file the same document twice? Is that common practice?
Not really, no. It could be just a simple clerical error.
Right, they just hit send twice.
Exactly. But, sometimes it could be a way to emphasize certain info. Maybe they want to make extra sure it was received.
Okay, so like maybe a little strategic highlighting.
Maybe, yeah. Or it could be something else entirely. It's hard to say without more information.
It's a bit of a mystery, right? Makes you wonder what else is going on behind the scenes. But let's zoom out for a sec. Why should our listener care about all this? I mean, what's the takeaway here for someone who's not a financial expert?
Well, I think the main takeaway is that, based on these filings, SG Finserve seems to be following the rules. They're being transparent about their financials.
No.
And they're working with independent auditors to ensure accuracy.
Right. So even if we don't understand every detail, we can still get a sense of how the company operates and their commitment to transparency.
Absolutely. And that's what makes these deep dives so interesting. We're getting to peel back the layers and learn about how a company works, especially in a market as dynamic as India.
I agree. And it's not every day that you get to be a fly on the wall during a board meeting in Delhi.
That's for sure. Plus, we still have that little mystery of the duplicate filings.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Almost makes you think there's more to this story than meets the eye.
You never know what we might uncover as we dig a little deeper. It's always fun to try to piece together these little clues, right?
Absolutely. Speaking of clues, I was looking at the addresses listed in these filings, and I noticed something kind of interesting. They have both a register office and a corporate office.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Good catch.
So their registered office is in Hargobind Enclave on Vikas Marg in East Delhi. And if I'm remembering correctly, that's a pretty well-established commercial area.
You got it. That suggests they've had a presence in the city for a while now.
Yeah, makes sense. But then they also have this corporate office in Kaushambi, Ghaziabad,
Right.
which is just outside of Delhi, right?
Yeah, it's a suburb just on the outskirts.
Interesting. I wonder why they would have two offices.
Well, if you look at it on a map, Kaushambi's actually super close to the Anand Vihar terminal.
Oh, right. That's a huge transportation hub.
Exactly.
So I guess that makes it easier for them to connect with people, even if they're coming from outside of Delhi.
It's a pretty smart move when you think about it.
Yeah, it kind of shows that they really understand how to do business in that area.
And it shows that they care about accessibility.
For sure. It's amazing how much you can learn about a company just from looking at their address.
I know, right? It's like, it's not just about location. It's about how they fit into the
Yeah.
whole ecosystem of the city.
Yeah. The transportation, the infrastructure, the people, it all plays a part.
And in SG Finserve's case, they're right in the middle of a city that's known for its growth.
Delhi's an interesting place, right? I mean, you have all that history
Yeah,
and then this booming economy.
definitely a city of contrasts.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how that's going to affect SG Finserve moving forward.
Good question. Will they use their location and experience in Delhi to grow even more? Will they find new and innovative ways to blend tradition with all this new development?
It's exciting to think about, isn't it? It's like we have this one snapshot of the company,
Right.
but there's so much more to uncover.
And who knows, maybe some of those answers will be in their next filings.
I love that idea. It's like each document is a little piece of a much bigger puzzle.
Absolutely.
And we're slowly putting it all together.
They're like financial detectives
I like that.
following the trail of clues.
And so far, what we're seeing is a company that is playing by the rules. They're smart about their location, and they seem to be in a really good position to grow.
Agreed. But we still can't forget about that question of the duplicate filings.
Yeah, I know. That's still bugging me.
It's a small detail,
Yeah,
but it could be important.
right. Like a loose thread that we just have to keep pulling on.
Exactly.
Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's something big, but we won't know until we investigate.
It's all about staying curious.
That's what makes these deep dives so great.
It's a constant process of discovery.
And sometimes
Yeah.
the most interesting discoveries come from the most unexpected places.
Like a corporate filing from a financial services company in India.
Who would have thought?
Right.
You know, in this world of instant news and information overload.
It's more important than ever to slow down and really analyze things.
Well said. So, to wrap up this part of our exploration, what are some key takeaways for our listeners?
Well, based on everything we've seen so far,
Yeah.
SG Finserve is definitely a company worth keeping an eye on.
Okay, I like that.
They're being transparent,
Uh-huh.
they're in a great location,
Right.
and they're following good corporate practices.
So, all signs point to a healthy and well-run company.
It seems that way.
Yeah.
But as with any investment, it's always important to do your research.
Right. Never just take things at face value.
Exactly.
And of course, we can't forget about that little mystery of the duplicate filings.
Who knows what might be hiding beneath the surface there?
It's what keeps things interesting, right?
The world of finance is always changing.
Definitely keeps us on our toes.
It's full of surprises.
Okay, so we're back for the last part of our deep dive into SG Finserve. We've learned a lot about this company, their commitment to transparency, their smart location in Delhi. But there's one thing that just keeps coming back to me. Those duplicate filings. It just doesn't quite fit, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely a detail that we need to think about carefully.
So we shouldn't just brush it off as a mistake.
Well, it's possible it was an honest mistake, but we should consider other possibilities too.
Like what?
Well, could it be a way to hide information?
You mean like burying something important?
Exactly. Sometimes companies might overload people with info. It makes it harder to spot problems.
Ah, so it's like a distraction tactic.
Kinda, yeah. It creates confusion and can deflect scrutiny.
Makes sense. It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack.
Exactly. Now, we need more information to know for sure, but it does remind us to always be a little skeptical. when we're looking at what companies tell us.
So even though SG Finserve seems to be doing a lot of things right, we should still be careful and pay attention to these little details.
Absolutely. It's all about being informed and asking the right questions.
Being a good financial detective.
Exactly.
And by talking about this with our listeners, we're helping them be smarter investors too.
Knowledge is power, right?
Absolutely. Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive into SG Finserve, what's the most important thing you want our listeners to remember?
I think the main takeaway here is that SG Finserve seems to be a company with a lot of potential. They're transparent, they're strategic, and they're in a market that's full of opportunity.
But like any investment, it's important to do your homework.
Right. Due diligence is key.
And don't forget about those duplicate filings.
It just goes to show you never know what you might find when you start digging.
The world of finance is full of surprises.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into SG Finserve. We hope you learned a thing or two. Until next time, keep exploring and keep asking questions.